Hey everybody, welcome to the Elevate Talk Show. I am your host, Deanna Johnson Cauthen.
And I'm Adrianna Cauthen, your co-host, and we're the mother-daughter talk show that's here to elevate your family. If you haven't done so already, please take a second to like this video and to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes.
Absolutely. Tell us, Adrianna, tell our audience what we'll be doing this week.
Yes, so we've got a great show planned for you today. In our Around the Town segment, we're going to take you to the Biltmore estate in Asheville, North Carolina. In this week's conversation segment, my mom will sit down with a variety of guests who all share about their experiences healing from past trauma. And in the fashion hack segment, I'm going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of layering.
Absolutely. And not to forget, we'll be having our Meal of the Week segment that Adrianna does, and she'll be taking you guys through how to make a delicious keto cheesy hamburger casserole. It's a nice alternative for those of us who want less carbs, but still want the full taste. Isn't that right?
Definitely.
So we need to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be back with a lot more. So we'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. In this week's conversation segment, I sat down at a backyard brunch here on my at my home with several guests who shared. We talked about trauma. We've all had trauma. At least most of us have been through some experienced some kind of traumatic incident in our lives. And so I invited people to my home to just share about some experiences that they have been through and how they healed from it, what they did, the processes that they took, the steps that they took to heal from the various traumas that they experienced.
Yes, so please take a look at our interview with the backyard brunch guests.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us and to talk about this topic of trauma for the Elevate Talk Show. I just wanted to basically get you guys to share a little bit of your stories about a particular trauma that happened in your life at one point or another, and to talk about the pain of it all, but also what you did to heal, what you did to move forward. So that's the topic for today. With that being said, who would like to share first? Holly, would you like to share?
Sure. I'll share. So this is not too past. It's just most recent, I think, with my mom passing.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm healed yet, but in the process of healing, I think what I've learned most is allow myself that time.
Definitely.
Because it takes a while to get from one stage to another. And I was a little concerned that, man, am I getting stuck in this complex grief? And people say, you might be getting stuck. But I didn't realize for the first time I'm allowing myself to take all the time I need. Usually I want to rush because I feel like people need me to get better quick. They need me to get back to this. And everyone's saying, no, you're fine. So I took that to my heart.
Yeah.
And I just took my time. If I felt like I was stuck in a spot, I just really felt that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be present in that moment. And I find that since I gave myself that time, I felt a shift that I've actually moved to another space.
Wow.
So I wasn't really stuck. I just needed to give myself the time to really process all the emotion.
Absolutely.
You know, something that happens, you're kind of in shock. You're not feeling, well, for me anyway, you're not crying, you're not doing anything.
Right.
So allow myself to be okay with not feeling, not doing anything, and then allow it to come when it came.
Wow.
So I don't know when exactly it happened, but I did feel that I crossed over some bump.
Yeah.
And I'm able to go to the next stage, whatever that stage is.
Whatever that stage is, and this will be a process for you. I mean, more, and we talked about that just recently. That I think it was, who was it that? Oh, you said that you've had friends that have lost a parent 10 years ago, 18 years ago. You shared about a mother you lost 30 years ago. But I think that even though there is still that grief, it looks different depending on where you are
on that spectrum. But like you said, being kinder to yourself.
Yeah, just not feeling you have to rush. I always want to
Right.
rush with other people.
Right.
You know, I need to get here by this time. I'm still here. Oh no, I need to hurry. And I think just give myself time just not to feel rushed.
Right.
If I was sad, I'd just be sad as long as I want to be sad.
Exactly.
And then I'm okay. The next day I'm okay. But if I want to be sad again, you know,
Right.
just giving yourself that space.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's real. Being kinder and gentler to yourself. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Who else would like to share about just a traumatic incident? Yes.
Well, my traumatic incidents, which Deanna was in the middle of it, she was there for me, was my husband transitioned like 5 years ago, and he was very, very ill. And my first part of it was, I guess, kind of acceptance, but relief because he was so sick and I had to take such care of him. But the first year, I think it was anger. I was angry that he was gone. And then the second year, it's like everything I didn't feel the first year, I felt the second year.
Wow.
It's like, this hurts so much. And like I was telling Deanna earlier, that I had emotional showers and thunderstorms. But I went to therapy at my church. I went to grief counseling. I did a lot of, talking to the Lord. I did a lot of spirituals. Listened to gospel. Tasha Cobb.
Oh, yes.
Tasha
We
Cobb
love
got
Tasha.
me
Yeah.
got me through some times, and I have a wonderful, supportive family.
Yeah.
And I grew it. It didn't hurt it much, but it's like I was telling Deanna earlier, like a month ago, it's like it all came back.
Wow.
And I was having these emotional thunderstorms, and I told my family I felt like I needed to go back to counseling. I said, I'm backing up.
Wow.
I don't understand this. Like, really? 5 years later, why am I hurting so bad? And I've come to realize I didn't have the answer, and I don't have to have the answer.
Wow.
But I do know that I spent more time in the Word. I spent more time with God. I spent more time listening to the gospel, and talking and caring for other people
Yeah.
who I've cared for. But it's more time talking to them and praying with them.
Wow.
But I have to say, for anybody who having emotional thunderstorms, find that joy. Whatever gives you that joy deep down in your soul.
Yeah.
Find that joy and just let it flow to you, and you won't always know why you feel what you feel, because nobody has a book on, nobody has the book on your grief.
Right. That's
But
good.
it's like
That's
I'm
a good
moving
one.
on, and it's great to talk to people who have
Wow.
these kinds of feelings like I do.
Do you think that moving on, you think that going to counseling, having the therapy, being able to process that is what helped you to move on?
Yes, it definitely helped me to process, because once my church offered it, it took a while, like, oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yes,
good.
everything
Yeah,
helps.
right.
Everything.
Wow,
Everything.
wow, that's great. Yeah, and I think processing it is huge. I mean, because we're all going to have pain at some point. But I think the idea of, but I think the being isolated, feeling like you're alone in the pain, I think is even more painful.
That's painful. Yeah.
Yeah, not having this safe place to go to process this thing. Thank you for sharing, Ladores.
you.
Who else?
Helen? Well, okay. Do you want to share?
Traumatic, really.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But did you have something else you'd like to share?
Well, yeah. Well, it's been around 15 years ago. I've been to a funeral.
Yes.
That was my first,
Yes.
and only funeral for a bit, for a while now.
Yeah.
And while I haven't really felt any trauma you felt, but during that funeral, I've heard cries.
Wow.
Cries louder than it sent chills on my spine. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to think. The person that died,
Yes.
but it's not part of my family
I
or
was
my
gonna ask.
bloodline, but
Yeah. But you saw grief in a
Yeah.
way that you had never seen it before.
yeah.
And it sounds like that really made an impression on you.
Yeah, and it kind of made me cry too.
Yeah, of course. It drew you into their grief. Yeah, and that's something. Wow, wow, wow. That's something. That's insightful that you would share that. Just you were able to feel someone else's grief so deeply that you cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we grieve. I think we're afraid of that. I think we're afraid of that whole thing. I think we'll do anything to stay away from it. We'll stay busy. We'll watch TV. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll work extra hours. We'll eat. but anything to stay away from the grief. And I think that when we do that, we can't move forward. We can't heal. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lynn.
Well, recently I lost my brother, and that's very difficult because, like I was saying, he was the person I connected with most of all, and he did live further away, so we didn't get to spend as much time as we wanted to, but we had some. But I guess I know he's not suffering anymore. I know that he's okay, and I know I'll see him again someday. But just still acknowledging, like you said, if I don't feel good or I'm feeling down today, don't push it and add other things on top of it. Just if you can. And one of the things that always helps me get out of myself sometimes is service work.
Yes.
Because it helps to help.
Yes.
And
it helps to help.
And two, I find a different way to honor everybody that's passed.
Yeah. Wow.
In a way. My father died when I was 9, and he had fallen from a tree, and he used the blood supply in 2 towns.
Yes.
So I give blood in memory of him. My mom had certain projects, so I try to continue their legacy.
That's good.
In a way that honors them.
That's so good. That is so helpful.
And
That's really super helpful.
It is,
to do that.
You stay connected in some way.
You do. So you found a way to take the pain and turn it into something positive. I think that may not happen immediately I think that is a process. Because you're telling us this story. Obviously, this was a process. You didn't, get up one day and say, "Oh well, I'm going to start giving blood today." But it was this process that you did. But it sounds like you went from one stage. You were able to take the pain from the first stage and move on to another stage.
My father died when I was 9, so I was a child. I couldn't process that. But once I was an adult and started to figure out, I thought, well, that's a good way to give back.
Yes.
Because people gave to him when he needed it.
Yes, that's beautiful.
So
that's great.
That helps me.
Thank you. That helps. And I agree because I do some of that, and it helps me as well. Yes, Christy, share with us, please.
Okay. I've kind of taken my tragedies and tried to process it in understanding and dealing with my emotions. And so in doing that, I put together my spiritual and then physical, my emotional, and then my mental emotions and or mental thinking, and just try to analyze all this grief and tragedy and feelings and things that that it takes me through, and trying to analyze how it can help me better move forward.
Now, can you give us a little bit of backstory on you? And you may be talking about another tragedy, but I want to make sure that you share with my audience a little bit about your personal tragedy as far as how you got landed in a wheelchair.
Okay. And that, I guess I could start out with saying that I had to go through this stage of acceptance.
Definitely.
And the tragedy was I was in a hit and run bicycle accident.
Right.
And that first stage of acceptance of that this was the deck of cards I was dealt. Yeah. And I had to learn to accept and look at how I was going to move forward, from that. Yeah. And it was like you said, a process.
Oh, yes.
It's definitely a process. But that was the physical.
Right.
And the physical was much more easier to get through.
Really?
I believe. Yeah, because it's when you come to the acceptance of understanding that, okay, this is going to be my new normal.
Wow.
Okay, this is what I have to deal with.
Right.
It's going to be my new normal. So now, how do I deal with all these other emotions?
Yeah.
And that second emotion that I would categorize as mental.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I say physical,
You
and
did
then
the physical, but now you had to deal with the mental.
yeah, with the mental aspect of it
Yeah.
is how am I going to perceive this? And we always get bombarded with how other people look at it,
Wow.
from both the positive and the negative.
Yeah.
But what am I going to, take on and decide to practice myself?
Exactly.
Because it's a choice.
Definitely.
You
It's
know,
the mental.
The mental
is huge,
Mm.
and one of the things that attracted me to you when I first met you, because we hooked up because of a bicycle event.
Right.
I was doing a bicycle event. You called me to say I had this accident, and
Right.
but I've learned to get back. I thought this is a woman who has definitely got control of her of she's definitely made a decision about how she's going to move forward, after this, because this tragedy has already happened, but how she's going to move forward. Definitely a positive spirit. And I was just in awe of you when I met you by that.
The mental process, I believe, is what really gets us to our higher spiritual level of where I'm trying to get to in my life.
Yes.
Doing what I feel God's will is for me.
Yeah.
Before I used to live
Yes.
doing what I wanted to do for me. Everything that felt good to me, and I won't go into all them things.
But they were fun.
They were fun,
Oh,
that's
yes.
for sure. Yeah. And it
And
felt
one of
good.
those positive things
Well, yeah.
were, and you can hold that up. This is one of the positive things that you've been doing with
Yeah,
yourself.
I've learned to
Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
about this here book
Yeah.
I wrote during the time of the pandemic.
Yes.
And I got tired of hearing everybody was going through their depression and
Yeah.
all this sadness and
Yes.
a lot of death and stuff. I said, let me write something that I can be thankful, grateful, and appreciative
And
for.
that's the name of the book.
And that's the title of the book.
Yeah. And it's a book of poems.
It's a book of poetry, and it's actually dealing with topics of, like all my writings, of abuse,
Oh, wow.
how to eradicate abuse, and putting that and connecting it with what to be thankful, grateful, and appreciative for in our lives, I felt would be really powerful, and
Yes.
not, for many people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think that even if you're one of the very, very fortunate people who haven't had a terribly traumatic event, we all experience problems in life. We all have struggles. We all have financial things we're dealing with. We all have bodies that are growing older, changes. And so if there are disappointments with that, we all have relationships. Maybe the relationship isn't terrible, but we all disappoint each other. No, even the most perfect marriage, and I think I have a very great marriage, but I'm tired sometimes. I get cranky. Andrew's tired. He gets cranky. What I'm saying is that you can be learning to be thankful, grateful, and appreciative can take you a long way in getting through life, and making your day go from blah to from what I mean. It can really just raise and elevate you to a better place mentally for the day. It doesn't. You don't necessarily have had to experience this huge, terrible, traumatic event in order to be to. Thankfulness is just good for every day. So I love it.
Daily staple.
It's a daily staple, absolutely. So
Gratitude.
gratitude, thankfulness, whatever we want to call it, is one of the things that I have found that has helped me to get from a negative space to a better place. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you all for sharing. It's been wonderful. It's been insightful. It's been inspiring, as I knew it would. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we hope that that conversation we had with our guests was helpful and will help you in your journey to heal from whatever traumatic experiences that you've dealt with. We need to take a break, but don't go away. We will be back.
Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show, and in today's Fashion Hacks segment, I'm going to be talking to you about the do's and don'ts of layering.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are tips and techniques that can keep you from looking frumpy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that for so many of us, you just think, well, I'm going to put on this, and then I'll put a jacket on, and I'm going to put a scarf on top of that, and it'll all just sort of magically work out. Not so much, does it?
No, that's not how it works.
No, it isn't. So please turn your attention to today's fashion hacks.
And welcome to our Fashion Hacks and Tips segment. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the do's and don'ts of layering. So let's get started. So one tip that I have is to avoid wearing camisoles under low-cut tops as seen here. Wearing camisoles with a V-neck looks very awkward. It ruins the visual lines of the shirt, and it also looks very frumpy and dated and gives you that sort of 1990s, early 2000s look, which is not cool. So what I would recommend is to instead wear a collared button-up shirt underneath your top instead. If you think that's too bulky or too hot, you can also buy a false collar like seen here. Another thing that I have seen, another good layering example that I have seen is wearing turtlenecks with low cut tops, because the turtleneck goes all the way up to your neck. It doesn't ruin the lines of the shirt. It doesn't interrupt things and cut you off like a camisole would. Another layering tip I have is to avoid wearing scarves that are too short or too narrow, like these scarves here. When you wear scarves that are too short or too narrow, it does two things. It can make you look bigger and bulkier, and it also can distract from the neckline of whatever shirt you're wearing. So I would recommend to wear wider, longer scarves as shown here. When a scarf is longer, it will elongate you. It will make you look longer and slimmer. And if your scarf is wide enough to completely cover up the neckline of your shirt, it won't be competing with it when you have it on. Another tip that I have for layering is to make sure that your layers do not all blend together. It's very important to have dimension. You need to either be wearing different colors, like contrasting colors, or different textures so that your layers don't all bleed together, because that can look very weird. So what I would recommend is, if you're layering, let's say you're wearing a black top and some black pants and you want to add a jacket, I would recommend wearing a gray jacket or maybe a colorful jacket, something like a red or a burnt orange that would add a pop of color so that you have some dimension. You could also, instead of wearing a different color, you could wear a different material. So if you're wearing, say, some black jeans, some black denims with a t-shirt, maybe add a leather jacket so that the different material will add dimension to your look. My final layering tip for today is to be mindful of your proportions, especially if you are wearing a skirt or a dress. So when you're wearing a coat or a jacket with a skirt or a dress, you need to make sure that your jacket or coat is an appropriate length for your skirt, especially if you're going to be wearing it closed. So for example, if you are wearing a midi skirt, something that is between the knee and mid-calf, and you wear a pea coat that hits about mid-thigh, that looks very awkward. If you're going to wear a midi skirt, something between the knee and mid-calf, it's very important that you have a walking coat or a full-length coat that will be long enough to cover it. Or you could also wear a shorter jacket that hits about at the waist so that your entire skirt will be visible. That is also going to look good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's Fashion Hacks and Tips segment, and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. In this week's Around the Town, we are going to take you to Asheville, North Carolina, to the Biltmore Estate. A beautiful place if you've never been there. It's, I believe, the largest home in America. And so we've visited there on a couple of the different occasions. At various times of the year, we visited there in the spring, but we've also visited there in the fall. And each season lends itself to just all things spectacular. The grounds are amazing, are they not?
Yes, they're very beautiful.
Very beautiful. Just fall foliage. If you want to see the leaves, all the varying colors of the changes of the leaves, October right now is the time to go. It's absolutely spectacular. So please turn your attention to our time at the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina. This week's Around the Town takes our family 3.5 hours north of Atlanta, Georgia, to the Biltmore Estate, which is located in the beautiful mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. The Biltmore Estate was built by George Vanderbilt, an American aristocrat who amassed a fortune through steamboats and railroads, and is the largest privately owned home in the United States. When George Vanderbilt arrived in Asheville in 1888, his visit was only supposed to be a family vacation with his mother, but he immediately fell in love with the rustic beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was the first step in a journey that culminated with the completion of the 250-room house that he would call home. Because of Vanderbilt's extensive travel to Europe, the interior of the Biltmore Estate is distinctively French and English. Some of the main features of the house include the octagonal sunken winter garden, the 70-foot-high banquet hall with the massive triple fireplace, and a library which includes a spiral staircase and houses approximately half of Vanderbilt's 23,000-volume book collection. The second and third floors of the house contain the elaborately decorated master bedroom of George Vanderbilt, as well as a host of other finely decorated suites. Although the decor of the house is elegant and stunning, the exquisitely designed gardens at the Biltmore Estate and the forest with its patchwork of autumn color are equally magnificent. Fall is a favorite season for strolling the gardens and the grounds of the estate. Several of the trees, including the golden rain tree and the katsura tree and the Persian ironwood, which were handpicked by Frederick Law Olmsted, the garden's architect, are now recognized as North Carolina's state champion trees. After touring the house and strolling through the gardens, we stopped and took a few family pictures before making our way over to the nearby Biltmore Village. The village is made up of a variety of quaintly stuccoed cottage-like stores, including the famous Old World Christmas shop where you can purchase a wide array of holiday decorations. The Old World Christmas shop is full of all the splendor and magic that Christmas brings, and I spent several minutes enjoying the many displays of holiday goodies. The shop contains everything from specially made Santa figures to ornaments, wreaths, dolls, nativity scenes, and so much more. After poring over a treasure trove of items, I finally purchased a lovely cream-colored ornament decorated in 24-karat gold lettering to add to my collection at home. The beauty and splendor of the Biltmore Estate, surrounded by the majestic mountains in Asheville, was nothing short of spectacular, and our family was able to make memories that will last a lifetime. For more information about the Biltmore Estate, visit www.biltmore.com/visit.
We're going to take a short break, but we'll be back soon. Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. And in today's Meal of the Week segment, I'm going to teach you how to make an easy keto cheesy hamburger casserole.
That's right. Now, cheesy hamburger casserole is kind of a favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And normally it's made with
Pasta. Normally we use macaroni or elbow pasta.
Absolutely.
But in this recipe, I'm using cauliflower,
Absolutely.
which makes it keto.
That's right. And that's great. That's a great alternative for those of us who don't want all the extra carbs. So please turn your attention to Adrianna's Meal of the Week, which is the Keto Cheesy Hamburger Casserole.
Hello and welcome to our Meal of the Week segment. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an easy cheesy keto hamburger casserole. So let's get started. Alright, so first we're going to start off by roasting the cauliflower. So normally in a hamburger casserole you would use pasta to make up the bulk of the casserole, but since this is a keto dish, we're going to be substituting the pasta with cauliflower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roast the cauliflower. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm just going to stir that in there. And now I'm going to put this on a baking sheet and spread it out into a single layer. And then I am going to bake it for 10 to 15 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so while we wait for our cauliflower to roast, let's work on the rest of our ingredients. So, I've got a couple of tablespoons of vegetable oil in this pan right here, and I'm just going to put this on a medium heat. And now I'm going to add in 1 large diced onion, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of pepper. And I'm just going to stir this and let it cook until the onions are soft and starting to caramelize. Alright, so the onions are soft and they have started to caramelize. They're starting to turn a light brown color. So now let's add in our ground beef. So I'm going to add in 2 pounds of ground beef. This is 80% lean and 20% fat. And I'm also going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt, a teaspoon of black pepper, 1½ teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1½ teaspoons of chili powder. So I'm just going to let this cook for about 7 to 8 minutes until the ground beef is fully browned. Alright, so now we're going to make a cheese sauce for our casserole. So I'm going to start off by putting in 4 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to let that melt. And I'm also going to add in 8 ounces of cream cheese. So I'm just going to stir the butter and the cream cheese together for about 2 to 3 minutes until they've both melted. Alright, so the butter and cream cheese have melted. So now I'm going to add in 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, and 1 cup of shredded mozzarella. So I'm going to stir that in. And I'm going to add in 2 cups of whole milk. So now I'm going to stir the cheese and the milk together for about 3 to 5 minutes until all the cheese is melted and it's thickened into a nice sauce. Alright, so the cheese sauce is ready. So now let's add in the cauliflower and the ground beef. So I'm just going to add the cauliflower in here. scrape all of that in here. And now I'm going to also add in the ground beef. So now I'm just going to mix these together. Alright, so let's put our casserole together. So I'm going to take our cauliflower cheesy beef mixture, and I'm just going to pour it into this glass baking dish. And I'm just going to spread it out so that it's nice and even. And now I'm going to put some mozzarella cheese on top. And I'm also going to put some slices of cheddar on top too. I'm just going to tear those up so that I can spread them around evenly. Alright, so I'm going to stick this in a 375 degree Fahrenheit oven, and I'm going to let this cook for 30 to 35 minutes, and then I'll be back to show you the final results. Alright, so our hamburger casserole is ready, and it looks really delicious. Let me give you a close-up shot so that you can see how good this looks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that cheesy keto hamburger casserole. We need to take a break. Don't go away. We will be back.
Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. Our time together is almost up, but before we go, we've got a couple of things we'd like to share with you. First of all, we really want to ask you to please subscribe to our channel. We have lots of great and helpful content, and we don't want you to miss any of it. And please tell your friends and family to subscribe and share this video or one of your other favorite videos with them so that they can see and benefit from our great content too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, just know that each week we put up a new episode of the Elevate Talk Show, so there's new material coming on a regular basis. New meals of the week, new fashion hacks, new conversations, which is our interview segment, and our
around the town
and
too.
our around the towns too. So every week you get to have new content. So it's an exciting place to be, because we're here to provide you with content that we think will elevate your life. So please check us out on our YouTube page. And where else can they check us out at?
Yes, you can also become a friend of the Elevate Facebook page.
Yes.
And that will allow you to have access to our live streams so that we can take you with us when we explore different spaces and places.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Elevate Talk Show. We do not take your presence for granted. We are very grateful for our audience. Thank you for being a part of our Elevate Talk Show family. Until the next time, have a great week. See you next time. Bye now.
Bye.